What's up, guys? Today we're going to be taking a look at the Samsung Galaxy S21 FE versus the A52 5G here. So this is a pretty interesting comparison because there's a lot of similarities with these two devices. One is a mid-range and one is like a it's like a flagship, kind of like a budget flagship, if that makes sense. But this one costs $700. They got some pretty good plans right now. You can get $100 gift card from Amazon, free Galaxy Buds. So they got some sweet deals, good trading deals. The A52 5G is a mid-ranger. This one is Metro PCS, so you can find them on like prepaid carriers and stuff like that. And this one costs anywhere between $300 to $400. So let's go ahead and get into it, see which one is the difference. Do you need a flagship or do you need the mid-ranger? So let's go ahead and talk about the build quality with both of these phones. So as far as the weight, they honestly both feel about the same in terms of like the weight, and they're almost identical in terms of size. The A52 is just slightly bigger. Now they both have these pretty similar backs here. They both have a plastic back, but the difference is on the S21 FE you do have metal railings on here, so it does feel a little bit more premium. This is just a full plastic phone here, but I think they both look really nice here. Honestly, if you get this one, A52, in like a different color, it looks really good too as well. But there is a hardware difference that you will notice, and that is at the bottom you do have a headphone jack, and there is no headphone jack on the S21 FE. So that could be a big concern for you, for headphone jack lovers, so be sure to keep that in mind. Alright, let's go ahead and talk about the displays on both of these devices here. So on the S21 FE, we do have a 6.4-inch dynamic AMOLED display. It's 120Hz HDR10+. It's 1080p 411 for the PPI. And then on the A52 5G, it's Super AMOLED, 120Hz HDR10+, 6.5 inches, so it's slightly taller. It is 1080p 407 for the PPI. So basically, both displays, they just look absolute same. You do have thinner bezels on the S21 FE, which gives it that more premium look. But what's kind of strange is that the A52 5G actually has a smaller punch hole, which I noticed. The punch hole is a little bit bigger on the S21 FE. But as far as quality wise, they both look pretty much the exact same. So there is no real difference as far as display quality goes. They're both also 120 Hertz, so they're super buttery smooth. So as far as display quality, these are two awesome displays that, pretty much look identical to me. Alright, let's go ahead and get into these specs a little bit more. We do have IP68 dust and water resistant on the S21 FE, and then we do actually have IP67, which is not too bad for a mid-ranger. Usually you just don't have it at all. So as far as the chipset goes, we have Android 12 on here, and we also have the Snapdragon 888 Adreno 660, and then no SD card support, 128 gigs of internal storage, 6 or 8 gigs of RAM. And then we also have on the A52 5G, we have the Snapdragon 750 processor, Adreno 619, but we also retain the SD card support. So this does have just more storage because you can put an SD card in it. You have 128 gigs of internal storage and 6 gigs of RAM on the A52 5G. So basically the big difference with this phone is really just when it comes down to the CPUs. So you have a mid-range chip versus a flagship chip. So basically once we start launching games and stuff, that you'll see that the Snapdragon 888 processor is just going to perform just much better than this A52 5G. Let's go ahead and launch some applications, see what we get here, see if we can see a noticeable difference. Boom, we're in, we're playing. Not too bad actually, but the Snapdragon 888 definitely a bit faster. Again, kind of neck and neck. So as you guys can see, a bit of a difference, but really not too crazy. They both run super smooth with scrolling and everything. And as far as like the web browsing experience and stuff, like the A52 is fine for for like you know the scrolling. It's not like it's lagging and hicking up. It's a pretty reliable mid-range chip, so I have to give it that. Now here is where you will see the big difference is. It's pretty much with your PUBG gaming, or pretty much gaming performance in general. Alright, so we got PUBG open, and here are the biggest differences really with these two phones when it comes to power. Is that on the S21 FE I can play all the way up to Ultra HD in HDR Extreme. On the A52 5G here, I can play, you know, I can't even play on extreme settings. Now this still plays fine, but you can see I can only go up to HD high, and there's no extreme option on here. But it is still very much playable for anybody that's a casual gamer. It's not like it's lagging and terrible to play on. It's still very smooth, still a pretty nice experience. But if you're really into gaming, you know, you're gonna have to spend that extra money to get the better settings. If you're a casual gamer, you really don't need this, you know, because you're just casually playing games. You don't need all that graphics power. Let's go ahead and check out these speakers. We're going to start with the S21 FE max volume. They both have stereo speakers, so let's go ahead and see if we can spot the difference. Let me make sure I have Dolby Atmos on here. Yeah, it is on. So the A52 speaker is just not as loud. It's pretty close, but it's just not as loud and not as clear as the S21 FE. The top speaker is much better sounding than the top speaker on here. But in general, they're both pretty good speakers. But yes, the S21 FE does have the slightly louder and slightly clearer sounding speaker there. So let's go ahead and talk about some more additional features here. So with the flagship phones, you get something called Samsung desktop support, which you do not get on the mid-range phones. So basically, if I want to use this, put it to my TV, you know, show my family pictures or videos or whatever, I can do that just, you know, wirelessly or through a computer. And then, you know, you just don't have that on here. Now, you also have wireless power sharing mode, which seems to not be on here as well on the A52 5G. Now, your secure folders is on here, but you are missing those like sort of flagship features, I guess. And you have NFC on both of these phones as well too. But as far as software, you are kind of missing those two things. So that is something to think about if you think you might use those two features a lot. As far as the fingerprint sensor, they're very smooth on both. They're just tap fingerprint sensors, so they pretty much work the same. I really don't have an issue. Now, you also have the ability to do face unlock on both of these phones as well too, so they're pretty much evenly matched as far as that goes. Alright, so let's go ahead and talk about the camera. So the S21 FE, it does have a triple camera setup, so it pretty much has a flagship quality camera. It's a 12 megapixel standard and 8 megapixel telephoto with 3x optical zoom, and then a 12 megapixel ultra wide that shoots in 4K 60 on the front and back, and a 32 megapixel selfie. The S21 FE does an excellent job with images, whether you're in good lighting, low lighting. Does a pretty good job retaining detail, pretty good job with skin tones. Overall, anybody picking this phone up will be very happy with the coloring and all that stuff. It is a really great shooter. Also takes really good video as well too. The A52 5G actually has a quad camera setup. It's a 64 megapixel standard, 12 megapixel ultra wide, and a 5 megapixel macro and a 5 megapixel depth sensor. It shoots in 4K 30, and then you have a 32 megapixel selfie that shoots in 4K 30, so there's no 60 frame option like on the S21 FE. Overall, I did not have any issues with the A52 5G's cameras. I thought the images were very good, especially considering the price point. It's definitely one of my favorite mid-range photo takers. I think this phone is actually kind of slept on when it came out. You don't really hear a lot about it, but this is definitely a very slept on phone. It takes really, really good images. Now, would I say as good as the S21 FE? No, but it's very close. So I wouldn't say it's as good, but I think image quality is pretty close. Alright, so let's talk about battery life. Surprisingly, these phones kind of drain the same. Now, I'll do a battery drain test on this phone, but the S21 FE, I know for a fact does an excellent job. But they actually both have the same exact batteries. They both have 4,500 milliamp batteries, and they both have 25-watt charging. Now, the difference with the battery situation is you have the reverse wireless charging and then the wireless charging. You do not have that on the A52 5G. So if you're somebody that depends on wireless charge, you know, you might want to go with this phone. But other than that, they pretty much feel the same as far as draining. These phones will easily get you a full day, day and a half, no problem. So they're really good on battery life. So overall, I would say, just to break it down, a lot of similarities with these two phones here, surprisingly. And then you actually have some pros with the A52 5G, like the headphone jack and also the SD card support. And then you just have on the S21 FE, you have, to me, just a better overall. I just really love the slimmer bezel look. I think the design, I really like this design too. And also the Snapdragon 888 processor is really the main selling point with this phone over this phone. And also, you know, you get the wireless charge, you get those little flagship features with the software. So if you need all the bells and whistles, I would say go with the S21 FE. If you're somebody you like, I don't really need all that stuff, I'm not really a gamer, I don't really care about all that stuff, this phone, A52 5G, perfectly fine. So thanks for watching, guys, and I will catch you guys in the next one.